Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard. Hope it's a payday for you. And maybe it is for you weekly and bi-weekly wage earners. Hope you get enough money to get out and go do some cool stuff this weekend. Spend some time with the friends and family. We had a busy day yesterday and spent some time away from the page, the website, but got back down to South Mississippi. I tell you this, I can't go to South Mississippi without getting some awards. And I did. Yeah, took the bride to the hometown awards there in Columbia, Miss. I don't know what we would do if we weren't raised on awards hamburgers. Anytime I get south, I got to go. It's like, it's a delicacy to me. And so I hope that you guys that live down there get a chance to enjoy that. But some cold weather in our region these days, and already getting the snow pictures on the Book of Face for many people. So be careful out there on the roads, kids. Hopefully it's a weekend you can just kind of chill. Watch some basketball. How about that? Yeah, that'd be great. And, of course, Mississippi State official visitors. We've got several that are leaving campus today. Several more arriving today. We'll do our best to catch up with everybody. Sometimes that's a moving target with these college kids. It's one thing, the high school kids, a little different. But the college kids sometimes a little more difficult. They've already been through this process. It's not a big deal to them. We always like to get reaction from them about their visit and their commitment and things of that nature because we want you guys to get to know them a little bit, right? I mean, there's something better than that official visit story when a kid comes in and finds his tribe, right? And they say, you know what, hey, this is where I want to be. You love reading those stories. And so we'll be working through those today. I already got a few texts out. Most everybody will leave in the afternoon hours, and so we'll do our best to catch up. We do expect a commitment or two in the next day or so. Had one yesterday. We're going to talk about that in the first segment of the show. And then, guys, I mean, it's crazy. Think about this. Classes start on the 16th, and you still have a little wiggle room with the drop-add dates the following week. And so we expect, again, a very busy weekend on campus this weekend. And I think the results of this weekend will decide how big the visit group is next weekend. One of the things that I was told, and I discussed this on our website many times, when Jeff Lebby emerged as a priority candidate for the Mississippi State head coaching job, one of the things that I was told is one of the drawing cards was that Lebby really felt that he could flip this roster rather quickly. And it appears that is unfolding as projected. Tons of transfer prospects. And here's the thing, too. If you can't get them to campus, you're not going to sign them. That's just the reality of life. High school may be a little bit different. It's still a rarity. But when it comes to these transfer guys, I mean, they want to come in, meet their coaches, see the town, see the player amenities. Many of them have never been on a Mississippi State campus before. And so if you don't get them in, you can't get them signed. This staff doing a tremendous job getting guys on campus. As I mentioned the other day, we had 7 confirmed visitors, and then that list pretty much doubled over the course of the next few hours. And so, again, working through this, we had some guys we were expecting that ultimately visited elsewhere. It's a moving target. It is. And this whole transfer portal thing is so different because things move at such a frenetic pace. High school is a little more regimented, I guess you could say. Guys, take unofficial visits throughout the year. They come to camp. You kind of get to know them a little bit. You establish a bit of a relationship. And so when you call, it's not maybe the intrusion that it is, for a college kid. But we've had several portal guys this year I've been able to interview shortly after getting an offer from Mississippi State. They're happy to get the press, right? Because they say, hey, I want to get my name out there and let people know kind of what's going on with me. But there are others out there just like, what, I've already done all this before. I'm just going to make a business-type decision, pick a school and transfer, and they don't feel they need the press. But we'll stay after them best we can. So look for full coverage on that today and tomorrow, and then, of course, on Sunday. So it'll be a busy stretch for us over at Gene's page, the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports. Hey, let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. Man, I love Bulldog Burger Company. You should as well. You probably already do. You probably already have a raving love affair with Bulldog Burger Company. Three great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Star Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Go by, have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. We want to make the world a more beautiful place. Step one in that process, getting some good rest. Number two, spring rolls. Yeah. And then have that great restaurant quality hamburger. That's one of the things to think about too. It's like, you can get hamburgers almost anywhere, but nobody does it better than Bulldog Burger Company. And what a great menu. Like you can just start with the Bulldog. Like if you say, Steve, I'm just kind of a conservative person. I don't want to get out there and walk on the wild side a little bit. The Bulldog will cure what ails you. But if you want to get out there and experiment a little bit, and I encourage you to do so, I think you deserve some good taste in your life. Maybe get the Bryant. Maybe get the Pimentology, add bacon. I mean, that's the old Boneyard classic. Maybe get those Sloppy Joe sliders. And if you're not feeling a burger today, let's get that BLT salad. I like it grilled. You may like it fried. I'm not judging either way, but I'm from South Mississippi. I like to get that grilled salad and douse it with ranch dressing, and I never finish it. The portion is so incredibly substantial. And get that bread pudding to go, or that chocolate shake. I'm an advocate for dessert to go. I think that's something we should normalize in our society. Bulldog Burger Company does such a great job. Great food at a great price, great atmosphere. You're not going to do any better than Bulldog Burger Company. Go check them out today. Bulldog Burger Company, the place for people to go to meet, M-E-A-T. All right, last night we were hanging with some friends at our friends Chad and Ashley Jones down in Brandon as the first episode of the new season of Swamp People came out. And really big fan of the Joneses. Even if Ashley wasn't on TV, I'd be a fan. And it's cool to have good friends, and they have become some of our better friends here as of late. And in the middle of all of that, we had a commitment last night. Kevin Coleman, wide receiver from Louisville. Now, he entered the portal back on the 2nd, commits to Mississippi State on the 4th. He is a native of St. Louis, Missouri. Now, this is a guy, too, that, highly decorated player coming out of high school. I don't expect, let me just go ahead and tell you right now, because I've been in the rankings game before, I have some input these days, but I'm not the person that says, push this button. He was a 96 out of high school. I don't think he maintains that because we get 2 years of college production to work with, but he's been a good player. Don't get me wrong. But this is a guy that makes your football team better. And not to mention, people forget, man. I mean, Louisville was ranked 15th in the country. Down the stretch, they lose the bowl game. But in 2022, Kevin Lamar Coleman, 33 receptions, 510 yards, averaged 15.5 yards a reception, 3 touchdowns, a long of 85, had 1 carry for a loss of 1 yard. This past year, a little bit of a dip in production, 26 receptions, 362 yards, 13.9 yards per reception, a couple touchdowns, a long of 58, 6 carries this year for 25 yards. And so, do I expect him to come down from a 96? Absolutely, I do. And people are going to freak out, right? Even if he gets like a 90. People are going to be like, oh, but Steve, they're downgrading our kids. You got 2 years of college production to judge here. And so I think what you're going to see, just as Cam Ball went way up, I think you're going to see this guy go down a little bit. But that does not impact who he is as a player. And I'm eager to see what Chad Bumpus will do with him. Is anybody having a better recruiting season than Chad Bumpus? I mean, honestly, kind of say it for what it is. You talk about a guy that's flipping his room. It's Chad Bumpus. Now, that's the reason you brought Chad to town, right? Not just because of the fact that Chad Bumpus was a very prolific receiver at Mississippi State, not just because he's from Tupelo, not because we like Chad. You bring Chad in here to do a job. This is not the Boy Scouts. It's not a personality contest. You want guys that are going to get you production. And that wide receiver room had some ups and downs last year. And so Chad's like, hey, I got to go out here and get some dudes. And he's getting some dudes. Not just from the high school ranks. It'd be one thing, okay, you look at J.J. Harrell and you look at Stonka Burnside. And you look at that and say, okay, well, these are Mississippi guys. These are guys that he probably knows some of their coaches and some of the people around them remember Chad as a receiver, know how prolific he is. And again, Chad is such a gregarious, very articulate person. There are a lot of moms that are going to sit across the table in their living rooms and they're going to hear Chad Bumpus speak and say, hey, that's what I want my son to grow up to be, right? And so it makes sense that he would do a good job recruiting in the high school ranks. But then you look at seeing what he's doing here in the portal, it's pretty significant. It absolutely is. And speaking of Stonka Burnside, he announced his decision at the Under Armour All-American game. No real surprise to us. Of course, there were some people, on the Ole Miss side of things that, and you never know what people are hearing. I'm not judging the Ole Miss media. It seems like anytime I ever say anything, if I don't just say something glowing about Ole Miss, Steve's a hater. Well, I am. I'll admit that. But, everybody is relying on sources when it comes to matters like this. And Burnside wasn't doing a lot of talking. We respected that. When he put out that his parents really didn't want him to do a lot of media in advance of his decision, went down to Mississippi Alabama All-Star game, got some pictures of him, spoke with him briefly, but I didn't interview him, We're going to respect that. But what a big day for Mississippi State. Not just the fact, and it's kind of a rarity, to be honest with you, that you see an undeclared prospect announced for Mississippi State at a National All-Star game. I think Deontay Anderson is the only one that I can remember. And we didn't play the game then. It was COVID, right? So they just had the broadcast. And he announced for us, of course, he had already signed, as had Burnside. He'd already signed with us. But, and so, yeah, we had some advanced knowledge of that. But, we kind of let you guys know we felt good about it. But now it's done. And I thought Stonka handled it well. It's going to be interesting to see how this young receiver group kind of matures together. But Burnside wasn't the only highlight of the game for us, right? Mario Craver, a couple receptions, a 51-yard touchdown catch and run, absolutely outstanding. And so it's like, hey, we got a couple young guys here. But here's the deal, too. Michael Van Buren, your quarterback, was the starter in the game for Team Ice. And you look up after one quarter, guys, it's 24-3. He lit it up. Wins the most valuable player honor. And I've already made my comments known, right, to some people at 247. I'm like, hey, we have not changed this kid's rating since November of 22 when he was downgraded to an 89. And he has maintained an 89 all the way through the process. And then he shows up at this National All-Star game, some of the best athletes in the country, and wins the most valuable player honor. And it wasn't one of those situations you look at and say it was kind of fluky. No, not at all. The kid looked in command. He made big throws. At times changed his arm slot because that's what the situation dictated. And how cool is it that Michael Van Buren, Mario Craver, and Stonka Burnside get to play on the same team, which ultimately becomes the winning team in the Under Armour Classic. That's amazing. And I begin to think about, what the ramifications of that are. How significant is something like that? And so a lot of people in the state of Mississippi weren't sure what was going to happen with Stonka Burnside. I think all of them messaged me and said, hey, Steve, I think it's going to be Ole Miss. And let me tell you this, there was no empirical evidence to suggest that. That's really about our own insecurity. And we expect, Ole Miss is doing well in the portal or whatever, and so it's like, we're not going to get anything for us. I mean, that's how some people live and operate. But Stonka commits to us. That's huge. Craver has the big play, has a couple of nice plays, one significant where he just absolutely outraced everybody in the end zone. And then Michael Van Buren up there on the stage getting the MVP. So a lot of people watched for the Stonka commitment. And before the Stonka commitment happened, just at halftime, they got this to kind of get a sneak peek on this class and what they're going to mean for Mississippi State moving forward. I don't know that the university or media relations or anybody involved could have generated more juice than that game did for Mississippi State. We talk about we always need something to feel good about. We need something to cheer for. And we've had some guys in the past who have gone on these all-star games and hadn't done much. I mean, you're happy they're there. And it's one of those things, too, that I always tell people, like the Mississippi Alabama all-star game. I love that game. I love the fact that we take the best players in Mississippi. And despite the fact that Alabama's got like 2.5 million more people than us, we go play against those guys. And I want to win that game. I do. I'm a Mississippi guy. And I want to see us win. And there are some times that guys will flash in that Mississippi-Alabama all-star game, and people are like, hey, they should move up in the rankings. I've always kind of downplayed an all-star game between like state all-star games, all-state teams, excuse me, because of the fact, I mean, the rules of the game, the rules of engagement are so much different. It's not even real football at times. But yeah, if you see a guy in practices that maybe you haven't seen before, and you get a really good sense of how they move and how athletic they are and how big they are, it makes sense they'd get a little bump in the rankings. And you see it every year. I mean, we saw it this year, of course. You had a handful of guys like Fat Clark and others, T.J. Lockhart, that moved up as they should have. But when you look at a national all-star game, and I've covered them all. I say them all. I don't guess I've done Semper Fidelis, but I've covered those games before. I've been there throughout the week and seen the drills and the skills and all that kind of stuff. And so you get it. And I remember one particular year. It was the year we had Tyler Russell and Chris Garrett and Clayton Moore. And I loved all three of those guys. Absolutely did. And so I'm going up there thinking, hey, our kids are undervalued. Our recruits in Mississippi's quarterbacks are undervalued. And then the very first day of Under Armour practices, I got to see Matt Barkley throw the football. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'm wrong. And that's what happens, like when you expand your scope and your view of things. Like if all you ever do is go see players in the Golden Triangle, then you're going to think, hey, these guys are undervalued. Because you don't have anything to compare them to. Because all you see is what you see. It's like, I went and saw Louisville. They're great. I went and saw Columbus, went and saw Starkville, went and saw West Point. Hey, it's great high school football. It doesn't necessarily mean they're national level prospects. I think Conan Daniels is undervalued, to be quite honest with you. Just kind of throwing that out there. Even though he went to Florida, and I didn't think he would when he committed. I was wrong. I admit it. But I love that kid's game. I don't think he's a product of the system. I think he is a dude, right? I think he is a national level recruit, and I don't know that he was properly evaluated. It's just my personal opinion. But here's what happens. With that friends, the holiday season is here. You're going to be on the go. You got to get out, you got to shop, you got to go all these different events and parties, and sometimes you don't make time for yourself to ensure that you're getting a nutritious and flavorful meal. Let me recommend our friends at Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. They can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, effort, and even maintain your healthy lifestyle. In the middle of all that, you're going to be on the go, and you may not be eating as well as you should. So allow the folks at Factor to help you kind of cross meal prepping off your list this holiday season. Skip all the planning to shopping to prepping, cleaning up. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals delivered to your door, ready in just 2 minutes, and they're absolutely delicious. I've partaken of these wonderful meals. It's a great lunch portion too. So like if you're on the go at work, you think, I'm not going to have time to get out and go get lunch today? The Factor meal portion, absolutely outstanding. So head to factormeals.com/boneyard50. That's the number 50. Use promo code boneyard50 and get 50% off. It's my gift to you this holiday season. That's code boneyard50 at factormeals.com/boneyard50. And be sure and get that 50% off. In mind, when you look at the Under Armour game, just as Matt Barkley kind of suggested to me, you know what, maybe I'm wrong about these guys. Maybe they are evaluated properly. When you see a guy like Michael Van Buren on the same stage, the same game, go out there and play as well as he did, you can't ignore that. You simply can't. It'd be one thing, if it was a defensive back that had a couple of picks. And listen, that's still a big thing. But he was the quarterback. And it's so difficult to put any semblance of offense together in an all-star game because you only got a handful of practices to put a cohesive unit together on the offensive line. You got to get the receivers and the quarterbacks on the same page. But guys, let's be honest. If you watch the Under Armour game, as Neil Stopchinski, who works for us, pointed out, the only time that either team had any rhythm on offense is when Michael Van Buren was under center. And so you can't ignore that. And so, of course, I have said for weeks that 247 has undervalued Michael Van Buren, and my hope is he gets his just due now. Of course, On3 dropped him in the rankings. ESPN's kind of had it right from the beginning, to be honest with you. Rivals has done a good job with him too. But my hope is, here's the thing. Now that everybody, it's not like that all of a sudden, 247 went and watched Michael Van Buren play a high school game on a Thursday night or something. It's a national broadcast. Some of the best players in the country. And everybody saw it. ESPN broadcast the game. And they can sit back and say, hey, you know what? We may be terrible most of the time, but we got this right. And they did. They absolutely did. And so my hope is now that everybody has seen it. And everybody understands the parameters around an all-star game and how difficult it is to really shine in an all-star game. And he did it. And so I think it's important that he gets rewarded for that. I think that's an important aspect of it. It's like we save a final update in the rankings because everybody wants to have a chance to see the national evaluators, want a chance to see these guys in an all-star game format because it's typically the best players, in the country, right? Typically. I mean, not always, but typically. And so you saved a final update for late January before NAFL signing day. And so we got some guys that need to move up, and Michael Van Buren's one of them. So I have voiced my concerns and my thoughts, and to be honest with you, it shouldn't be necessary, right? I mean, if you watch that game, you shouldn't need Steve Robertson to text you and say, hey, what about this Van Buren kid, right? So I do expect to see some upper mobility with him. It's interesting, though, one of the conversations we've had as of late is, on our boards, is, of course, everybody talks about 247 rankings. So it's like, we're always getting screwed because some people kind of equate the composite to think that we control everything with the composite, which we don't. The composite is all four major networks, kind of an average, median. But I checked this morning, Mississippi State 27th with Rivals and on 3 and 29th with 247. I mean, so we're basically right there together. And so I've always thought that the composite, even though that there's a lot of ebb and flow with that thing, because sometimes somebody will put a lazy evaluation, and sometimes it's the evaluators in 247, and it negatively impacts the composite. But I think that's a good consensus opinion. And so it'd be one thing if Rivals had us ranked 25th and then 247 had us 40th. But, when we're right there together, I think that's where you feel like, okay, this is probably pretty close to what it should be. But I still think there are some players in there, and MVB being one of them, that needs to move up. And I think when you look at where we are right now and the circumstances that Jeff Lebby and this staff have had to overcome, and the fact that we are a consensus top 30 recruiting class right now is absolutely remarkable. And we're not done, and like I just sent a request in this morning. Of course, Bradley Lanier has not been evaluated yet. And so we've made that request. And in addition to that, you hadn't got a ranking on Coleman. So those guys are on the commitment list but have not been awarded a point total yet. So they don't have a ranking for this recruiting class. So you're 29th now. I guess composite ranking is 29th. But there's a lot of changes, that got to take place. You got to get some guys evaluated. You got to get some guys done. Like Kevin Coleman, no transfer ranking. Zach Haynes, no transfer ranking. Made those requests today. And, Brian Lanier, let me see here. Maybe we've got Lanier done. Let me look and see here. Not yet. So, I sent that request. We do have him, 85. I don't agree with that, but at least we've got him evaluated now. So Brian Lanier is done. It looks like this kind of the textbook 85. I absolutely don't agree with that. And I'll send the text. But it is what it is, right? The JUCO rank, it's one of those things, too, that you talk about a moving target, But at the end of the day, it's always somebody's opinion. So what can we expect next? I mean, we expect business to pick up here. Again, you've got 11 days before school starts, and so some cool things will happen between now and then. But as it stands today, Mississippi State currently with 12 transfers. And we do expect to get some news on Stone Blanton very, very soon. I think that's going to be a positive development for Mississippi State. And when you think about our needs as a program, our needs as a defense, I think that's a very significant get for us if that goes as we expect it to go. But as it stands now, you got 21 officially announced signees. and then the 12 transfers. So right now it's a 33-man class. And then you throw in Frisco and Lanier, you're up to 35. And guys, you only have 85 scholarships, and you're still going to add some more players. So basically about half of the roster is going to be new players. And again, that kind of plays into the whole thing about, well, hey, we need to have some measured expectations next year. I mean, you're implementing 2 new systems on both sides of the football with a bunch of new players. So somebody's going to have to rise and be the bell cow here for us. But I think what we're going to see here is Mississippi State obviously being very dependent on the portal. You've already seen that with a dozen transfers. How many could there be? Well, you need to get an edge. You need to get a linebacker. You need to get a couple DBs. So 15 plus. That's pretty significant too. Would be a tremendous influx of new players for Mississippi State. And this is the world in which we live in. And, of course, after a coaching change, you have some guys go in the portal. We did have one late defection, Jonathan Davis, no, not of Corn, Jonathan Davis of Lawrence County, went in the portal, one of the last to do it for Mississippi State. And, it's interesting, too, we talk about, well, the rules are this. The portal window is closed. But what if somebody just pops up here at the end and says, well, wait a minute, I didn't get an opportunity. Of course, they allow a little, fluctuation for those teams that had bowl games over the weekend. But what's to say there's not some district court judge out there that's going to come up and say, oh, no, they should be able to transfer now. Everything that's happened now has really, in many respects, been a negative for teams. There's been a lot of positive things that have happened for players. But when you think about coaches, you think about fans, as I've mentioned to you guys before, how do you buy a jersey? Like, how do you go buy a jersey for your kid? Because it's going to change tomorrow, right? Or the next semester. I mean, things can always change. And so the desire to simply cheer for Mississippi State as a program means more than ever, more so than it does for a player, right? You may have a favorite player, but it's one of those situations nowadays where you just can't get too attached because things change so quickly. But, as it stands today, Mississippi State has had all of their players that were seeking a transfer announce their declaration to go into the portal. We did report that first yesterday. Jonathan Davis was expected to go in. He did inquire just before the deadline, and the school has up to 48 hours to put him in. That's been taking place. That's taken care of. And so what's interesting, too, we had less players transfer this year than we did last year. Now, of course, we'll still have the spring, and you're going to have some other guys, of course, that'll show up in the summer. So there will be some more ebb and flow. You're going to have more players leave. And, of course, there's going to be people – there's going to be the gnashing of teeth in the Facebook groups, when people say, hey, well – we're losing all these kids, and they're going to forget the fact that we just brought in, 40-plus players. We've got to make room. There's only 85 scholarships to work with. That's the reality of that. And so I think it's important to understand while your roster is still evolving, there are some more adjustments that will be made post-spring. The window opens up back in April for 15 days. You get 45 days now to transfer, without rare exception. When you make a coaching change, the portal already opens up. But ideally, you get 30 days after the fall semester and then 15 days in the spring to declare your intention to transfer. But that's where we are. And, of course, new names just kind of populating out there as they're being processed. I mean, there have been some situations here that guys have gone in before the holidays, and then they got 48 hours. And so they don't count the holiday, and they don't count, So it's like some guys announce their declaration and don't get officially entered in the portal for like 4 days, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's a matter of just somebody clicking a button, right? I mean, it's not something that takes all day. But there's some schools out there just kind of playing, taking these kids hostage. It's silly. But I guess there's some butt hurt when guys leave. I commend our people at Mississippi State. As soon as we find out a guy's about to go in the portal, it's like, boom, there it is. And that's the way it should be, right? I mean, if they want to leave, go ahead and assist them in that endeavor and get it done. I mean, the rules are the rules, right? Until some judge changes them. But you understand my point. It's like, hey, what's the point in holding this kid hostage and making him wait 48 more hours? And in some cases longer than that, because it's 48 hours of the work week. Kid may go in there Friday night and say, hey, I want to go in. Well, the next thing you know, Monday's a holiday. You kind of get what I'm saying. I mean, it's a little silliness. It's a little silly. But the reality of it is, State doing a good job flipping this roster. Now it's going to be about, hey, can we meld this thing together? And that's what the spring is for. And Levy mentioned that you really want your team to be here for the spring. You may have one or two guys that come in post-spring, but you don't expect those guys to come in and really be impact players. I mean, because they don't have the benefit of the spring meetings and practice sessions and things like that. Of course, there are some special athletes that could just kind of show up and plug and play, but it's a rarity. It really is. But I like where things are headed right now. And again, we'll hopefully get some more commitments in the next couple of days out of these transfer portal prospects. But as it stands today, I think Mississippi State is probably done with high school players unless we get a big surprise from Daniel Hill. And the latest chatter is Alabama for him, and he's supposed to announce Saturday during the All-Star game, his respective All-Star game. But I think it would be a bit of a surprise right now. And not a week ago, I didn't believe that. But industry sources, people that I have spoke to, believe that it's going to be Alabama for Daniel Hill. And I think in many respects that will close out your high school recruiting efforts for the 2024 class. Unless something changes, I think the rest of the way it's going to be portal prospects. I mean, of course, Brian Lanier popped up here late. You take him. But I think, the last handful of spots is going to boil down to transfer prospects out of the portal. And that's what needed to happen. All right, time for today's top 10 list, as always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. Blair is a mortgage professional. Blair is a guy that's been doing this 22 years. You don't stay in any industry 20 plus years by accident. You got to get things done. Because coffee's for close. You know the deal. Give Blair a text or call today at 601-500-2344. Again, that's 601-500-2344. We've had several Boneyard listeners over the years that have closed with Blair. And maybe you're looking to buy a home for the first time. Maybe you're looking to relocate. I don't know your needs. But when it comes time to entrust your mortgage, you need to learn to listen to a mortgage professional like Blair Chandler. He's a Bulldog, got a place here, season ticket holder, multiple sports. I believe in keeping business in the family as best we can. And here's the thing, too. You don't want to do business with Blair just because he's a Bulldog. He's a guy that gets things done, and he just happens to be a Bulldog. Reach out and let him know today what your needs are. He can help you navigate through it. That's closewithblair.com. All right, it's time to make you feel old. I don't know how you feel. I don't know how you feel today. It's Friday. I feel good. I do. I'm glad to be home. We got some work ahead of us, obviously. Got some visitors to call and things like that. That's all part of the gig, man. But here's the deal. I'm going to give you a list of rock songs that are turning 30 this year. 30. And some of them you still listen to. Some of them will have these feelings of nostalgia. But many of these songs are still on many of your playlists. And they're 30. Not only are they old enough to buy beer and vote, they're old enough to get their automobile insurance decreased. There's a lot to it, man. So here we go. Top 10 rock songs turning 30. No Nirvana or Green Day on the list. Number 10, and I had to slip this one in, even though it's kind of a genre bender in many respects. We had the self-titled Motley Crue album come out. The debut single with John Corabi on vocals, it's Hooligan's Holiday, number 10. Got new music from Motley in 2024. Tommy Lee says it's not a full album. They'll release a few singles, and we'll see how things go. We do expect that Motley will continue to write new music. There was a time we thought they were done. Like Kiss and everybody else, it's like, no. I mean, I guess it's one of those deals. It's like, the only thing better than 25 million is 30 million, But anyway, I'm eager to hear what the John 5 stuff sounds like. But kind of an unpopular take here. As a true Motley fan, I love the self-titled album with John Corabi. I do. I think musically it's one of Crue's best. And people are like, oh, it's no Crue without Vince. Okay. Maybe they should have renamed the band, but, I don't know why you walk away from your own legacy. I mean, there have been times, of course, Tommy has left the band. You had Randy Castilla sitting in on drums. Nicky is the only guy that has not departed the band. Of course, Mick recently retired, and depending who you listen to, could have been a forced retirement. I don't know. But I know this, that last year, or 2022, Mick Mars made $8 million to stay home. That's good work if you can get it. So that's the only hair song that we have on our list today. Because, early to mid-'90s was grunge. And this was kind of like the end of it. This was like we were beginning to kind of, push towards the end of the grunge movement. But number 9 for me, a great track fronted by a pair of female vocalists, great harmonies. It's Veruca Salt's Seether. Because you can't fight the Seether. Volcano Girls is a great track too. But that came later. That was the next album. But our first, probably our gateway track to Veruca Salt, of course, Veruca Salt, named after a character in the Willy Wonka factory, was Seether. Great track. Number 8, a band that I absolutely loved. I had a chance to see them live at Rocklahoma a couple years ago, and they got rained out. So I didn't get to see them. It's live. And many of you know that debut album, Mental Jewelry. But to me, the one that is the best album is Throwing Copper. And that's when they kind of went from being, opening acts to being headliners, playing in clubs. They were a phenomenal band. Still out there playing too. You can go watch them. But it's the great track, I Alone. Because I Alone Love You. It's true. It's true. All right, number 7, a song that caused a little controversy. And you would think if it was released today, it may even be more critically acclaimed. But there was some shock value in this track. And there always has been with Trent Reznor with 9 Inch Nails. But the song Closer. And this is a family show, so I won't sing it for you. But he talks about, I want to do something to you like an animal because you give me closer to God. And so there was a lot of controversy about the lyrical content, about how could he be so demonstrative and direct and forward with all this stuff. But Closer, one of the signature songs of 9 Inch Nails. I would probably say Head Like a Hole is probably the one. It's probably the one. Again, that was our gateway track. Maybe we do a top 10 list of gateway tracks. Roy, put that on the list. Maybe we'll do a gateway track. Maybe we'll do a week of that. Our gateway tracks for bands from different eras. It's true. All right, number 6. Love this band from the very first time I heard them. I think the first song, my gateway track to Oasis, was Supersonic. I think that's correct. Went out and bought the CD, and we're going to go with Live Forever is our number 6 track. If you haven't watched that Oasis documentary on Netflix and you're a music fan, I encourage you to watch it. Some very interesting facts and earlier footage from them. Of course, Oasis for a while where it was considered the biggest band in the world. And, Liam and Noel couldn't get along. And so Oasis went kaput. And remember when... I guess it was Noel that was married to Patsy Kensit for a while. That was kind of a power couple. And some of you will have to go Google her. But she was the it girl for a while. All right, number 5. One of the saddest songs, probably in my lifetime, written by Lane Staley of Alice in Chains. And it is one of these songs because of his death that really resonates well with Alice in Chains fans. To this day, when Alice in Chains performs, they dedicate this song to the memory of Lane Staley, and now, of course, Randy Starr as well. But there's footage. They play the song Nutshell from Jar of Flies, and it is one of those songs, too, that is so deeply emotional. And for a guy like Lane Staley that had so many demons to deal with, it's a very vulnerable look at his life and his mindset. Thus, the title, Nutshell. It's like, this is how I feel in a nutshell. So that's Nutshell. There's nothing about nuts, whether it be tree nuts or ground nuts, whatever. None of that. There's no nuts in the story. But it's basically, a bit of a euphemism for hey, this is how I feel. And it's very sad in many respects. And it is a very powerful song. And a lot of it was about his own struggle with fame. Yeah, he was the guy, too, that just wanted to get out there and rock and have a good time. And little did he know that Alice in Chains would be one of the biggest bands of the 90s. That Dirt album, to this day, holds up. If you're unfamiliar with it, you should be. When your parents talk about grunge, even though I don't think Alice in Chains was really a grunge band, even though the tuning, the drop D tuning was similar, they were really more of a rock band. They were around before grunge was. Alice in Chains facelift, and it was a phenomenal record. And our gateway track to them was Man in a Box. And we loved it. We weren't sure what we were listening to, but we knew they were different. But Nutshell, really, really sad track. And Jar of Flies, I remember the very first time that I heard it, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this album, but it was a different side of them. And I remember buying that record at Camelot Music there in Hattiesburg and going home thinking, you know what, there's a little more depth to these guys than I realized. All right, number 4, it's Stone Temple Pilots. And this is arguably my favorite Stone Temple Pilots song. And we could go a lot of different directions here, but this is on my travel playlist. It's Interstate Love Song. You know, leaving on a southern trail, man. That's usually what we are, right? We're trying to get home. Of course, Scott Weiland no longer with us. Scott's a guy that lived a very, very tragic life. They said the only time he was happy was on stage. He could escape from all of his problems. A guy that struggled with addiction, many other issues, depression. He was just pretty much a reckless person in many respects, but doesn't mean we can't go back and enjoy the music. And this is more of an up-tempo, kind of a happier song. Absolutely like it. All right, number 3. I remember the very first time I heard this song. There's some songs like Welcome to the Jungle for me. I was awake watching MTV after a night out at North Park Mall. And in the middle of the night, Guns N' Roses played. Like it was like 2 a.m. They played it on MTV. And I was like, who is this? Right? You go out and buy the Appetite for Destruction cassette the very next day. Things exploded from there. But this is another one of those songs, and maybe the band didn't have the same critical acclaim as Guns N' Roses, but they were huge. And I had a chance to see them with the Goo Goo Dolls and No Doubt. It's Everything Zen from Bush. The very first time I heard it, I remember watching it on MTV, and it shows like the birds at the beginning of the video, and I was like, where are these guys? But who are these guys? And why are they called Bush? But I loved them. Gavin Rossdale is a superstar. I had a chance to see them in Rocklahoma. It was amazing. I've seen them, I guess, 3 or 4 times now. And, different versions of the band, but Gavin, of course, is a constant. Absolutely love everything. To this day, it holds up. Number 2, it's Pearl Jam, the quintessential 90s band. And I remember when this album came out, a lot of people weren't sure what to make of it, right? Because all of a sudden, you went from, the great album 10, which of course was a tribute to Mookie Blaylock, the original name of the band, which is interesting. They got a cease and desist letter from Mookie and his people, so they changed the album to 10, which was Mookie's number. Phenomenal basketball player. And Vitology came out, and everybody was like, okay, we went from 10 to... it's just one of those things, too, like when you get through, I think we got more Eddie Vedder a little deeper into the catalog, right? Because people forget, Pearl Jam, of course, kind of rose from the ashes of Mother Love Bone. That's an important aspect of this. So I think some of the earlier catalog was really, before they found the new sound. Nothing was wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved those earlier Pearl Jam albums. Still do to this day. And I have talked about this before. When the Versus album came out, which was album number 2, and Animal was the lead track on that. Dana and I went and saw him with Urge Overkill down at UNO Kiefer Lakefront Arena in New Orleans, sitting front row. And I've told my kids many times, I said, before she was your mom, she's front row at Pearl Jam. She's always been a cool chick, and but that was a great experience for us. And I remember what's interesting too, we're on the front row, and Eddie Vedder offered me a drink of his wine, and I turned it down because I was in recovery, right? But right down the front row, and he pours a glass of wine, and he's like offering to people in the crowd, right to me. I don't regret not drinking it. But that was the night, too, that they got in trouble down at Pat O'Brien's with Jack McDowell of the Chicago White Sox and got arrested. Little aside there, but you didn't expect that today. But our track today is Better Man from Pearl Jam. Very, very powerful song. And it's really about a young lady that is in a bad relationship, because she's trapped. And I think about a lot of young ladies in our state's history, that were in bad relationships but were largely uneducated and couldn't support themselves and had to stay in bad relationships for survival. One of the things that I've told my girls their entire life is you get a job where you can support yourself and your children if you ever have to leave. Don't ever be in a situation where you have to be dependent on some man out there. And that's not to bash men or anything like that, but people shouldn't be forced to choose between their safety and survival. Shouldn't. It's true. That's just kind of how it is. And there are a lot of people out there that stay in relationships because they can't support themselves. And I think that's one of the saddest things in life. And that's really what this song is about. Better man. She can't find a better man. She lies and says she's in love with him. Can't find a better man. Number one, though, and you probably know this was coming if you know me and my musical taste. It's the Pet Shop Boys. No, it's not the Pet Shop Boys, wise guy. No, it's Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun. I almost went Fell on Black Days, which is actually my favorite track from that album. The Super Unknown album, which is phenomenal from start to finish. Like you listen to Bad Motorfinger and it's like, wow, these guys are amazing. And they followed up with Super Unknown, which was even better. Even better. Not a single track on that album I don't like. So that's your number one track today that's turning 30. It's nuts to think about that. But yeah, it's better than the alternative, right? We get to celebrate this music and keep on living, right? I know what Matthew McConaughey tells us, just keep L-I-V-N-G. L-I-V-I-N-G, living. Yeah, right? I blew it, Matt. I'm sorry. But that's your list today, your top 10 list. And you never know. Maybe we'll do a Gateway Week next week. We'll do some rap, some country. You never know. You just never know what we'll do. Thanks so much for your support of the top 10 list. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out to Roy on Twitter at Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC67. You can also find our great list on Spotify. We just push it over there for you. So if you're looking for a list while you travel, you work, you run, you work out, whatever, we got you covered. Great list today. Top 10 songs turning 30 in 2024 on the rock side of things. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmark, a Starkvillian institution. Next time you're in town, go by and see their smiling faces. Nobody has a better selection of Mississippi State merchandise than Campus Bookmark. If you can't make the town, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmark.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. It's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75, and the order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. And let's be frank with one another. Some of your gift-giving friends didn't get you exactly what you wanted. Rather than cry about it or whine about it or say, woe is me, go log on to campusbookmark.net and take care of that yourself. We're going to be watching baseball here soon. You're going to need that new hoodie, that M over S hoodie. You're going to be in Humphrey Coliseum now that SEC play is here. And you're going to want that Mississippi State basketball garb. Go take care of it yourself. Let's be grown folks about this, right? All right, so we took a break while recording the show because Stone Blanton is now committed to Mississippi State. That's not a surprise to anybody. It is so significant, though, when you consider the losses that we have had. So let's kind of look at the Stone Blanton file here. You guys know that he's a lifelong Mississippi State fan. A lot of people were surprised and disappointed when he picked South Carolina. But he's coming home. It's big. It's absolutely big, man. I'm jacked about this commitment because of the fact, and listen, people are like, well, he was okay at South Carolina. Listen, when you've got a guy that understands the Southeastern Conference, and you got a guy that is from the area, that understands the honor and privilege it is to wear the Mississippi State maroon, and yes, he turned us down one time, but he has righted the wrong and is coming home. I'm thrilled. So back in 2022, Stone played as a true freshman at South Carolina. Had 7 tackles and played in more than enough games to kind of negate a redshirt year. So He's spent 2 years of his eligibility. He now has 3 years to play 2. But 7 tackles as a true freshman. Last year, his most extensive action, 52 total tackles, 31 solo, 21 assists, a sack, a forced fumble, a pick, had a touchdown, pass deflection. Very active, and it's so interesting, there's always a bit of sour grapes when a guy leaves a program. It doesn't matter if it's ours or somebody else's. Everybody's like, but wait a minute. Guys, listen. We need linebackers. Stone Blanton is a linebacker with SEC experience. Looking at his numbers here, too. Guys, in the bowl game, I guess it's not the bowl game. Yeah, bowl game, he had 6 tackles against Clemson. It was a 16-7 loss, but that was the game that the Gamecocks simply had to have. Stone stepped up, had a big game, opened up the year with 10 tackles against North Carolina. It was a loss to the Tar Heels, but one of the most productive tacklers, and multiple tackles in every game. You'd expect that with the position. But the big pick 6 coming against Jacksonville State, a pick for 88 yards, shows some athleticism there for sure. But 4 tackles against us, but it seemed like he was everywhere, kind of impacting the game. Had a big pass deflection too, forced a fumble. Just a lot involved. So yeah, this is a very, very, very good get for us. He's not going to rank as high as he was as a high school player, and that's perfectly okay. Fine with me. I just know that we needed backers, and we've addressed that. Now, when you go back and look at our class now, we're up to 13 transfers. Interesting how that works. And in the meantime, too, Byron Lanier has been bumped to an 87. Initially an 85, now an 87. So don't think your good friend and host isn't out there working. I am. I'm doing what I can to try to get things correct as best I can. Doesn't always work out the way we want, but an 87. And that makes him, I think, the 24th rated junior college player in the country. So that's always a good thing, too. And we'll have a reaction from Stone shortly. Rion Young on the phone with him now, but kind of looking to see where things stand. We mentioned the 21 signees, and you got some more to go. Obviously, Frisco McGee not officially announced as a signee, and he moved up in the late rankings too to an 89. Brian Lanier now an 87. Stone Blanton an 88. Was a 90 in high school and 88 now. So they dipped him down. We don't have a transfer ranking for Kevin Coleman or Zach Haynes just yet. But now 13 transfers. So, again, this class beginning to take shape. You're beginning to see the roster flip, So we're going to do what we can. It's interesting to note, too, that there will be some more commitments, and we're going to do our best to have coverage for you over at genespage.com. Come be a part of that. All right, the Mississippi State women's basketball team dropped the SEC opener last night, and we talked about how important this game was with a road trip to South Carolina looming. We didn't take advantage, and it felt like State was chasing the game much of the game. State an 18-14 deficit after one quarter, but then came out really strong in the second quarter, sprang back out into the lead, and then Vanderbilt closes just before the half to lead 36-33. Come out in the third quarter, and they just build on the lead, take it out to a 6-point lead. State gets a 16-15 difference in the fourth, and we ultimately lose by 5. But this is not a good development, but it's not, we're not ready to throw in the towel by any stretch of the imagination. We do expect to be a very good team, be a tournament team. Vanderbilt, kind of a surprise so far this year. They've been really, really good, and a big road win for them. Vanderbilt 14-1 on the season with a 1-0 record in the Southeastern Conference. Your Lady Bulldogs dropped to 13-3, 0-1 in the conference. Ayanna Moore leads Vanderbilt 29 points, 10 of 16 from the floor, played 39 minutes of available 40, 3 of 6 and beyond the arc, 6 of 6 free throws. Did a little bit of everything. Had a steal, couple turnovers, assists, personal fouls. But she was the straw that stirred the drink. But they did get some contributions from their bench. Maybe not a ton, but you had 2 other players from the starting lineup with 9. But everybody that played scored. Yeah, that's significant. It may just be a basket, but everybody made a positive contribution. Look at the bench points here for them, just 11 for them, but some quality minutes. Jerkalia Jordan led Mississippi State with 21 points. 30 minutes of action, 8 of 17 from the floor, 1 of 7 from beyond the arc, just couldn't find it. 5 assists on the night, 3 turnovers, 3 personal fouls, but 6 steals. Debris Chapeau with 15 points, and off the bench, Darian Rogers with a dozen. So nice contribution there, from her. Jessica Carter held to just 6 points, 3 of 7 from the floor, didn't get to the line, did pull down 12 rebounds and had 3 blocks, did get in a little bit of foul trouble there, but still played 32 minutes of action. But in order for us to win in the Southeastern Conference, we're going to have a really good post presence. And that's part of that, too, is getting to the line. Jessica has proven to be a pretty good free throw shooter. Again, not a lot of opportunities for her from the floor, but we're going to need more. Lauren Park Lane has been phenomenal for Mississippi State. To quote Ben Howland, just 3 points last night. So 2 of your stars combined for 9 points. That's not a great recipe for Mississippi State. Kind of looking through these numbers here, too. 43.1% from the floor. You'd expect to win that game, and 6 of 20 from beyond the arc. That's not great. Not great. But 10 of 12 from the line. That's good work there, if you can get it. But we didn't get to the line enough, especially Jessica Carter. So it's a loss. And, again, it's one that we didn't need to absorb, but it's not time to panic or throw in the towel. We mentioned that road trip to South Carolina. The Bulldogs that'll be this Sunday. It'll be a noon tip from Columbia, South Carolina. Lady Gamecocks playing exceptionally well, as you expect, under Dawn Staley. So Bulldogs staring an 0-2 start in Southeastern Conference play right in the face. Right in the face. Would have been great to win that one last night. And, of course, Vanderbilt kind of exceeding expectations right now. So maybe the league proves to be a little more difficult than we expected, but we still have a lot of confidence in Coach Purcell and in this team. And Jessica will get it going. We know this. She's not Tierra McCowan, but she is a very, very, very good player. Now, looking ahead here on the men's side of things, some big games coming up, as you guys know. I mean, everything else that's happened so far has been great. And as Bo Bounds and I talked about this morning, it totally like he was having some fun out there. I mean, I'm not worried about his mobility. So big game tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. on the road at South Carolina. A chance for us to go in there and kind of steal one on the road from those folks. And this South Carolina team, let's take a little time to talk about them. In recent years, anytime that we saw them, we thought, you know what, we got a good chance here. We do. We got a good chance. Whether home or away, we felt like it's a game we should win. I feel that way about this team, too, despite the fact that South Carolina is 12-1. They are playing well. They won 5 games in a row. But taking a look here, they opened the year with a home win over USC. Upstate, you expect that. Nice win on a neutral court against Charlotte, 79-77 winners. They take down VMI, 74-64 out. I guess before they went to Phoenix. And then they get DePaul, 73-68. Grand Canyon, 75-68. Notre Dame, in the ACC-SEC Challenge, they take them down by a dozen in Columbia. George Washington makes a trip to Columbia, South Carolina, comes home with a loss, 89-67. The long loss for South Carolina this year came on the road against Clemson. 72-67 win there for the Tigers. They go to South Carolina goes to ECU and wins by 6. Charleston Southern, they get them by 4, and then Winthrop by 10. They finally get a big blowout win over Elon, 70-43, and then they get Florida A&M 94-62. And so not a real challenging non-conference schedule. And if you look at a lot of these results, they're close ball games. Now, the flip side of that is they're used to playing in close ball games. They're not going to panic down the stretch. But they haven't had a ton of breathing room until as of late. Of course, a 10-point win over Winthrop, you probably want something a little better than that, but a blowout of Elon and Florida A&M. I don't know what type of adversity they faced in recent weeks. And so that's going to be interesting. And a team that plays defense the way that Mississippi State does. And, again, I think Mississippi State is even better than their record indicates, as great as that is, because now you've got Tolu Smith back. and this will sound a little bit crazy, I guess. I'm expecting to win the ball game. I don't know how you guys feel. I think we're going to go in there and take care of business. Looking at a couple of sports books out there, State's a slight favorite on the road. And did you expect that? I mean, yeah. I mean, it's like you look at this and say, you look at the records and say, well, Steve, going on the road, facing a team that's only dropped one game this year. But, State now currently a 1.5 favorite. I think State wins the game and covers. Of course, we're gonna need some things to go right. They're not going to just show up and give us the ball game. But looking a little deeper inside the numbers here for South Carolina, I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch them this year. I have not. We're doing this on the fly right here. But I firmly believe with Chris Jans' defensive system and the effort in which he coaches with, that Mississippi State, from an overall talent standpoint, should win this basketball game. That's how I feel. But looking at the numbers here, Meechie Johnson leads South Carolina, averaging 17.7 points a game. B.J. Mack with 14. Miles Stute with 10.6. Just beneath double figures is Talon Cooper, 9.5 points per ball game. And those four guys are regular starters along with Stephen Clark. Jacoby Wright has started one game in place of Meechie Johnson. But by and large, it's been a pretty solid rotation of players here, it appears. Stephen Clark just 3.5 points a game for him. But playing some pretty significant minutes, though. But Meechie Johnson, again, the straw that stirs the drink here. A guy that's kind of doing it all for him, too. He's active on the glass, pulling down 49 total rebounds, 39 of them on the defensive end. B.J. Mack with 66 leads the team. But a team, when you look at scoring margin, points per game, 75 and a half, I don't think they get to 75 against Mississippi State. Opponents are scoring just 63. Honestly, I think if we win score 65 points, got a good chance to win the ball game. As a team from the three-point line, they have been pretty good. 115 of 330 from beyond the arc, right at 35%. Meechie Johnson, among the best marksmen for them, 25 of 70. Miles Stute, 25 of 64. So four of their five starters, regularly in the rotation, taking shots from beyond the arc. So we're going to have to defend the full parameters of the court here. But look at these numbers. 3-point field goal percentage, we discussed that already. Free throws, they're a decent free throw shooting team, right at 73.5%, making just at 14 points a game. Rebounding, they're plus 5.5. And that's where I think with Jimmy Bell and Tolu Smith, maybe we can reverse that trend for them. Again, they haven't played a ton of good teams. So we're going to go ahead and expect a win, barring something unforeseen. We're going to expect a win and to get off on the right foot. This ball game will be broadcast by CBS. So if you're looking for it, it's 11 a.m. Mississippi State time, 12 p.m. South Carolina time. And if you live on the West Coast, you figure that out yourself. So CBS, that's always a big question. Where can I watch the game? Going to be on CBS. And again, a game we expect to win. And how significant would that be, for Coach Jans and those guys to get out of the gate strong here? You got Tennessee coming to the hump on Wednesday. You know what Rick Barnes is talking about. And Nate Oates in Alabama has been very much up and down this year. And then you've got the road trip to Kentucky. We talked about if you could get a split here, you'd kind of be okay with it. But as we get a little deeper in this thing, you start thinking, hey, maybe we get off to a better start this year. But it could be a situation, hey, where you stumble out of the gate, but you get it going late. But you win this one against South Carolina, then things kind of tend to set up well for you once you get through this early quadrant of games. Tennessee is going to be a tough matchup for us. We're going to have to play exceptionally well, and we're going to need the home court advantage. We're going to need you guys to be there. I know it's a midweek game, but if you can get here for a 6 p.m. start, please do. And then Saturday, a game that's going to be also on the network, 7:30 tip on Saturday night, Alabama. That game is here. That's not the same team it was a year ago. We're going to expect to win that game. And then, of course, that trip to Kentucky. It's always tough to go into Rupp. That's going to be ESPN2. So if you can get 2, you feel like, okay, we're on pace. You get 3, you feel like you're ahead of the game. That's how I see it. Maybe you see it differently. I think probably of those games you look at, Tennessee and Kentucky, you're probably more likely to get the Tennessee game here. And that's where you guys can come and really be loud and make a difference in every aspect of that. That's an important part of all this. But like you, I'm excited about basketball. It's fun again. The hump is kind of new again, at least newish. I'm not going to be critical of that, but the hump has a new look. It's really nice what they've done in the club level. It really is. It's really nice. It's very, very fan-friendly. You kind of walk around and get your food and stuff like that, get down to your seat. It's pretty well organized up there, too. I had a chance to experience that, and I can tell you it's worth the investment, I think. I know many of you, maybe have a hookup or whatever, but as this team continues to win, those opportunities are going to be a little more difficult to come by, right? All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Just Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse. If you're looking to bring a large group to Starkville, look no further than the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. You can Google that. That'll pull up their Facebook page. You can peruse those pictures. You can see the amenities that are available to you at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. It's outstanding. It's the old clubhouse for the golf course, been completely renovated and turned into a residence that you can rent when you're coming to town, rather than go get 5 hotel rooms. Save a little money, go to Stark Vegas Clubhouse. We're going to save you a little more too. If you book through the Evolve website, you can book through VRBO or Airbnb, and you're going to pay full price. But if you go to the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10, your good friend and host is going to save you 10% on your stay. How cool is that? Be sure and check them out. Again, 5 bedrooms. It's amazing, and you can have everybody under one roof, whether it be a family event or a work event. Maybe you're bringing a crew to Starkville. I don't know your needs, but I know that we can give you a great place to stay that will give you the opportunity to buy some groceries and some adult beverages. You know how it is when you're in that hotel lobby and people are just kind of interloping on your conversation. You don't have to deal with that. You can just kind of keep your circle tight at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Be sure and check it out today and book through the Evolve website, promo code BSR10. All right, we've got some more visitors coming in, some more developments too. We were hoping to host Jair Brown. He is now committed to LSU out of Ohio State. Wish him the best, certainly. That's his deal, right? You got to do what you got to do, my man. And that's all part of the deal. We also, we talked about getting Coleman from Louisville. We also had hoped to host Amari Huggins-Bruce. He's now committed to South Carolina, originally from South Carolina, so not a huge surprise there. And that's kind of part of the deal, right? It's just, everybody wants to go home. Stone Blanton came home too, right? Jaden Vosen, we were hoping to host him this weekend, felt good about him. It does not appear that he's going to visit this weekend. Not sure where he's headed, but it's interesting to note he's had 3 different visits to SEC schools canceled. It makes me wonder if there's not a transfer issue, to transfer into the Southeastern Conference. Sometimes there are some more academic requirements. So some other names to be mindful of. Antoine Jackson from East Carolina, hearing that he should be here today. We need a corner. Nakao Webb Walker confirmed to me that he's a native of Jamaica. He's going to be here. That's a rush in from New Mexico State. And Cliff Odom, of course, your new special teams coordinator, coming to us from New Mexico State. So we do expect him to be here. Micah Meskua, pardon me, from the University of Florida. That one's a little bit iffy. Not exactly sure. It's set up. I haven't confirmed with him, so we'll see how things go there. But it would be nice to take another offensive lineman. Of course, a couple other options out there. Javaris Johnson from Auburn, expected to be here today. And, of course, things change. Things are always changing with this. Marquise Robinson, originally from Wilkinson County, Mississippi, is now committed to Arkansas. He told me he was visiting Arkansas midweek and then was tentatively scheduled to come to Mississippi State. Does not appear that visit's going to take place now. Really nice young man, but told me even in the interview that he really wanted to go out of state. We're going to try to catch up with Wayne Matthews, Old Dominion linebacker transfer, but now with Stone committed, I wonder how many more linebackers we take. We'll see what he has to say. That'll be awfully interesting. And of course, one of the more recent commitments, Brylan Lanier, committed and then began his official visit on Wednesday, and we'll do our best to catch up with him today. I really like him. Wilkie Denard confirmed with me. He's from Auburn, originally out of the state of Florida. He's expected to visit Mississippi State today. Told me that that would be the case. Roman Petrie from Purdue University, hoping to speak to him today. Not exactly sure where he's headed today. We'll do our best to catch up with him. Finally got a phone number on him today. And then Jacoby Jackson confirmed he is a transfer offensive lineman from Texas Tech. Played offensive guard, has the ability to play right tackle from what I'm told. Visiting Mississippi State midweek, supposed to leave and then go to Baylor and then Texas A&M and then have an opportunity to make a decision. I'm not sure if he's visited A&M yet. I don't think that's happened. I hadn't confirmed that with him, but I know that the plan was to go to State and Baylor this week and then make a decision sometime next week. But that would be significant. And when you begin to look at the work that Cody Kennedy has done, it is very, very, very impressive. We talk about the offensive line, the wide receiver room. Offensive line's doing well too. Running back Jalen Lucas was a midweek visitor. We hope to catch up with him today too. Of course, Coach Tucker, running backs coach at Indiana, made his way down here. Lucas, of course, also a native of New Orleans, Louisiana, so give him an opportunity to come back closer to home. And then, of course, signee Cam Ball. And we hope to have, we've been in contact with him today, hope to have some reaction from him soon. But that's kind of how things stand. And you don't ever rule out another visitor. It's like herding cats. I mean, it is. I mean, you just never know from one day to the next. I mean, it's like one day we've got, 6, 7 confirmed visitors, and then it's 14, So things change a lot. And there are guys that are out there kind of making their way. The visits for portal prospects began on the 3rd. So you got some guys that maybe were set to come to Mississippi State this weekend that have already made their decisions. And so we'll work through that. But talking about this offensive line thing, I think in some ways it's been overshadowed because of the amazing work that Chad Bumpus has done, right? I mean, Chad has done a phenomenal job. It's not some big surprise. But let's real quickly kind of work through the offensive linemen here. It's, so you got 3 high school offensive linemen. Jimothy Lewis, who was an All-American, considered one of the top offensive tackle prospects in the country. Now, he was a Will Friend commitment, but Cody did a good job kind of keeping him in the boat. He talked about taking an official visit the last weekend before signing day. That did not materialize. He signed with State. Going to be good to go. He'll be here, next week. If he's not already, he'll start classes soon. And then, of course, T.J. Lockhart, a guy from just down the road at Winona. They don't allow early graduation there, but we do expect him to be a factor in his career. Will be a guard for us. And then, of course, Luke Work, another All-American. So you begin to look at the high school ranks and say, okay, yes, we inherited these 3 guys. All-state guys, All-American type guys, guys that have done a really good job for you. So you've got some young building blocks to work with, but while those guys are developing, you begin to work through these transfers here, right? Marlon Martinez from LSU. Is he a starter for us? I don't know, but it's nice to have some competition there. He was highly recruited out of high school, went to LSU, and primarily been a 2-deeper, but he does have some starting experience under his belt. You look at McKaylin Pounders. I was a huge Pounders fan out of high school. Love this guy as a young man. I think this is a guy that will do a tremendous job for us kind of moving forward. This is a guy you look at and say, okay, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. And I think every official visitor you have, it's choosing between State and Ole Miss, just let him host them, right? And there's Ethan Miner, of course, a transfer from North Texas that has done a phenomenal job. So offensive line recruiting, maybe not on the level of wide receiver, but very, very intriguing when you consider what State's lost. And with Percy Lewis in the portal, you got to get another one. Maybe that's Jacoby Jackson. I think in the end that may boil down to State and Texas A&M. We'll see how things go. But absolutely phenomenal, man. I mean, it's like when you start working through this and you look at individual players and you just forget about rankings and offer sheets. And you look at film and you start thinking, okay, are our needs being met? And I would say yes. I did have the chance earlier this week to catch up with Zach Haynes, punter from New Mexico State, of course, coming to follow Cliff Odom here. A guy at 6'1", 195 pounds, had 3 punts over 50 yards this year. His net punting average, not much better than ours, but his depth of kick is. And so you want to add some competition, and I think we can all agree that the punting this year for Mississippi State left a lot to be desired. So it makes sense for us to go get this guy. But again, with the addition of Stone Blanton, now 13 transfers in the class, and we needed that to happen. And we talk about, Stone. You guys know my feelings about this, but you add Stone, you add Marcus Ross, you add Brandon Jennings, and you start thinking, okay, yeah, these guys are not Bookie Watson and Jet Johnson. But you look at the production they've had throughout their careers, and you feel like we've got some building blocks to work with here. And the fact, too, that, for Stone, this is his one-time transfer exception, right? So unless the rules change again, and we never ruled that out, we fully expect Stone to be here. And as he told our Rion Young earlier, that you can read that story for free on Gene's page, it's a chance to come home, be back closer to home. And that's a big factor in so many of these portal decisions. I mean, you look at Robinson, Marquise Robinson, that commits to Arkansas. He goes, hey, I've always kind of been down here. I'm not a guy that has to stay close to home. I appreciate the honesty and earnesty, right? But he's kind of moved on. And so we're seeing some guys out there with some ties to Mississippi and ties to the South that are likely to come home. I mean, you saw it with Jordan Mosley. When he was committed to Tennessee, they made the coaching change. Opened things back up, wound up at Northwestern, way up there in Evanston, Illinois, decided to come back. And even though he hadn't maybe had the impact many people expected, that is a big part of this. In the beginning, kids will tell you, I'm going to go anywhere. Doesn't matter for a high school, junior, whatever. I'll go anywhere for the opportunity. And then once they have that, it's like, I think I'd like to be a little bit closer to home and have the opportunity for my friends and family to be a part of this experience. And so that's a part of it. And again, you run through some of these names that we've talked about visiting. These are guys like, guys from New Orleans that have gone, to Purdue, guys, from the South. You look at even Byron Lanier, right? Went up to Indiana, wanted to get closer to home, ends up at Scuba. He's from Tuscaloosa. So there is always that riding factor of being closer to home. That's important to understand. I mean, think about listen, I grew up in Mississippi, right? And I spent, 16 years in Baton Rouge and spent some time in Lafayette and Natchitoches. And in the back of my mind, I always thought about coming home, back to Mississippi. And while I'm in North Mississippi now, I grew up in South Mississippi, and I wear that like a badge of honor. There's just something that's said about being, back in familiar territory. I'm only a couple hours away from, some people that are very important to me. I've got 4 sisters there in and around the Canton, Mississippi area. And so when they need me or I need them, I can get in the car and go see them. And there's something to that. There's something about family. Now, some guys, I remember LaMichael James. And the illustrious Hound Dog and I called him El-Mike. And LaMichael James, and we're talking to him, talking to his sister, and probably would have been a good thing for him to come to Mississippi State. But it worked out well for him at Oregon. But this is a young guy here that stayed at his grandmother's house, did not have electricity. He wanted to get as far away from that as he could. He wanted a new lease on life, and he went to Oregon. And there are a lot of young people that feel that way. But by and large, people want to be close to their home base. But there are some people out there that don't have a good experience. It's like, I want to reinvent myself and go somewhere else. And, that's part of life and self-discovery. But again, we're excited about the weekend. We do expect some more commitments, but as far as me telling you right now who I think they're going to be, I don't know that I can tell you that until we have a chance to talk to them. If you haven't done so, go to whenthebottomfalls.com and you can order the new book. It's doing exceptionally well. Eager to see where it is on the bestseller list this week. And there was a time in my life, as I shared with you guys before, I had this crippling fear that I'd never write books, and I'm now working on number 7. Once we get through the portal recruiting process, we'll kind of get on that a little more full-time here. Of course, we'll still run Gene's page and all the things that go along with it. But the schedule, as far as coverage goes, will afford me a little more time to do that. I had the opportunity yesterday to meet with some folks in Brandon for a recovery podcast, the Unashamed Recovery Podcast. That's going to air February the 19th. I don't know their schedule, but they kind of batch these things together and edit them up. There'll be video, audio, all that kind of stuff. It was a great experience. I mean, it really was. And it was a busy day for us as, had to hustle down there, then get to the funeral, and then back up to watch the Swamp People series, our season debut with our friends. But when you have the opportunity to talk about things that really matter, I mean, I spend so much time talking about so much. It's entertainment, right? It's very special to me to be able to do that. And I'll be down in Central Mississippi on Sunday doing a recovery podcast with the Recovery Lab. And I go back the next week for another deal. And so a lot of recovery stuff these days. And a lot of it's just kind of promotion of the book and things like that. But these people reach out to me. So I share that with you because there are some people, of course, that follow me for the Mississippi State stuff. But, maybe you care about the other stuff too. And so I want to make sure that you're aware of that. I don't have any book signings scheduled right now, and a lot of that is going to be kind of pick and choose in the new year because, we've got baseball coming up here in about 6 weeks, and I'm going to be really working hard on the new book. But we'll take some time. We'll do some book signings here and around a little bit. Got some other bookstores out there that need to get stocked, and our publisher will take care of all that. But you just never know from one day to the next, right? I mean, it's like you have these aspirations and dreams. You think, okay, I want to do this. And then you do it, and it's like, okay, what's next? As I've shared with you guys many times before, I'm the kind of person that likes to have something to look forward to. So I want that for you too. And, our True Rest location, we're getting very, very close now to getting the build-out done, and then they'll deliver pods here in about 2 weeks. Signage goes up like 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll do a soft opening. We hope to be open in January, but it may actually be closer to February 1st. And please follow us on Facebook at True Rest Starkville. And we're going to run this like a mom and pop, too. This isn't going to be one of these things where I just kind of put some money up and let other people run it. It's very important to us. And one of the things, too, like that oxygen bar, you ever done that? I had never done it before, but it's pretty amazing to be able to do that. So come be a part of that. And again, you can visit True Rest Starkville on Facebook. We're also on Instagram. Dana handles all that sort of stuff. But it's going to be a busy stretch. And it always is. As the wife always says, it's never boring with you. And it never is. And she contributes to a lot of that stuff too. But, my point being is that we're going to get a little bit of a break when it comes to football stuff. We'll have junior days coming up pretty soon too, and there'll be new offers going out for the 2025 class. There's already some new offers out there. They'll start hosting some kids on campus. That's an important part of all of this. I don't know how Labby and those guys are going to handle junior days. The Leach contingent, rather than have some big cattle call junior day, and I don't know if those things even happen anymore, they just kind of pick and choose, like, hey, let's get a smaller group in here where we can kind of lay hands on them and spend some time and kind of sell Mississippi State. And so they would do a ton of these unofficial visits. But I'm not exactly sure how Lovey's going to do it. It used to be the big thing, right? You'd have junior day and everybody would brag, we had 300 kids and 400 kids and 10,000 kids. And 99% of them couldn't play, in the Southeastern Conference. But it became this ego thing. It's like, hey, well, they had 200 kids. We had 300 kids. More kids want to come here and play for us. And a lot of it's just, these are young men, looking for an opportunity. And more times than not, the guys don't need a junior day. The guys that that you want don't need a junior day. But you want them on campus so you have a chance, to have a relationship with them. And so I'm curious to see how Labby and those guys are going to handle that. They are still nose to the grindstone. That's the thing I think about with Coach Labby and the staff. Outside of the Christmas break, they haven't had a break since the moment that they got here. They have been absolutely on the grind trying to find you guys football players. And this transfer portal thing has become more demanding than ever. And it's only been around 5 years. But, people talk about it's such a cash cow for networks like ours, and it certainly is. But it's really the environment that college coaches are having to operate in now is unlike any in history. And you look at Jeff Labby, and he's not unique in any respect when it comes to this, but when you're a new coach going into a new culture and you're moving your family, and there's so many things to this, you got to fill out a staff. And then in the middle of all of that, you got to identify the needs on your roster. Then you got to go out and identify prospects that can fill those needs. And so it has been absolutely chaos in many respects, kind of organized chaos. But you understand what I'm saying. It's like they have not had a chance to check up since they got here. Period. And that's important to understand. So I'm sure once we get finalized here in a couple weeks, get through the drop ad date, those guys can kind of begin to settle in, kind of buy some furniture, get the family moved in, get everybody situated, get them in school. There is so much to this, and the demands are never ending. We haven't had an opportunity to sit down and speak to U.S. assistant coaches yet. I'm sure that'll happen, once we kind of get settled and everybody reports and we kind of know who's who and what's what. But it's one of those deals, you guys want to get to know your coaches. And I know the university has done some things, but it's just a different dynamic when it's the regular media, right? Because, we can ask some questions perhaps the university can't. That's not being critical of anybody. But, the media that's on campus that's paid for by the university, of course, that's basically marketing, right? So we look forward to sitting down with them and learning a little more about them and kind of introducing them to you in many respects here in the weeks to come. But yeah, it's a much different dynamic for us too, because you've got all these new coaches coming in, and every single day there's a new player getting offered, there's a new guy that's going to visit, that he's not going to visit, and then he's scheduled to visit, then cancels the visit. I mean, there's so many things that happen. It's like, hey, I'm going to wait 2 weeks, I'm going to decide today. It's difficult to keep up with. I mean, it really is, and especially when you have to take a day or two to deal with some family stuff. But we're going to do our best, and it provides you the best coverage, and I want to thank you guys too. I shared this over at Gene's page the other day. We had a record December, and that wrapped up a record year for Gene's page. Matter of fact, the last quarter of 2023, the most successful quarter we've ever had, ever, at genespage.com. And when the numbers come rolling in, all of a sudden, I always know the numbers are good because I start getting text messages from people at 247 Sports. It's like, hey, Steve, just saw the numbers, even before I've seen them. Like, hey, really, really, really solid month last month. You guys are doing a great job, And it's nice to get that. It's right. I mean, you think to yourself, just send me the check, right? But it's nice to get affirmation from people because, when Gene retired, I'll be honest with you, it's like before I was just like the guy, right? I would just go write articles. I never had to deal with the customer service aspect of things. People lose their password or there's a problem. With private browsing, there's always something. There's things that I didn't have to deal with. And now I'm having to do all of that and produce content and then kind of manage everybody else because Gene really kind of managed through autonomy. He's kind of like, hey, you guys are self-motivated, go knock it out. I'm a little more competitive, so we have a little more of a structure, and I'm probably a little more of a jerk at times than Gene. I own that, because I am so competitive, and there's sometimes if I don't think the guys are putting out, I'll let them know. Hey, we need to get this done. We need more content. Need this, need that, because we want to do a great job in our era. But I can't begin to tell you how grateful I am for all of you that have contributed to genespage.com, whether you be a message board poster or just a subscriber that reads, or maybe you're just a freebie and say, you know what, Steve, I haven't been convinced yet that I need to subscribe, but I read the free content. And we do a ton of that. We share it on social media. And I appreciate everybody that's ever clicked a link or read a story or made a post, and we don't always agree, and that's okay. I don't take that stuff personally. Sometimes people intend it personally, and even then I don't take it personally. And there are other times that people don't intend it personally, maybe I do, but it's pretty rare that I do. But I can't begin to tell you how proud I am of our team and how grateful I am to all of you for the year that we've had. And of course, it's a brand new year, so you can't rest on last year's accomplishments. You got to get rolling and kind of make some things happen. And so that's where the portal thing kind of helps us because there's so much interest in the portal. And that kind of carries us. And now it's SEC basketball. And Justin's on his way to South Carolina right now to go cover the SEC opener for the Bulldogs. And so, we're always trying to add and do different things that maybe we've done in the past because we don't want to just be seen as a fan site. I know some other people kind of see us as that way. I give Mike Nemeth a lot of credit. When Mike came aboard, that's one of the things that we talked about. He goes, hey, we shouldn't just defer to the print media to report these things. There are things that we know that we put on a message board and say, hey, look for this to happen. He goes, let's just write an article. Rather than let them take our information and get the engagement, let's do it ourselves. So we've really transformed in many respects, and I have so much respect for Mike. Mike, of course, ran media relations at Mississippi State, man, for 30 years or so. And so Mike, I think, has made me a better writer. I think Mike has made me a better leader in many respects because I understand kind of the other side of this through the media relations side I didn't know before. Before I'd be like, hey, we reported this, and then somebody else gets credit for it. And Mike has really pushed us to kind of evolve and be more than just a fan site. And you people have responded. Now, I always believe, too, that you'd rather hear bad news from us anyway. In the past, there'd be times Gene would just say, oh, we'll just let the ledger have that. I just never felt like if we have it, we know it, why don't we report it? I think we've got an obligation to you anyway, rather than just sit on a story like that and let somebody else have it. My whole attitude about that is that, there's enough news to go around, but we want to report it first as much as we can. Sometimes we get beat on things, and we take it personally. I'm really hard on myself and hard on some of the people around me, but harder on myself more than anybody else because I just can't do it all. And I wish that I could. I probably could if I didn't care about being married or being a father or having a life. But the reality of it is that I do want those things, and we've got a great team, and look forward to seeing what this group can do with a full year under their belt. And again, I'm very grateful to everybody that has shared the path with us for a while. There's so much of that too. There's so many people that they want drama and things like that, and I don't really want that. Now, if somebody does something stupid, I don't mind saying it's stupid, right? And I get the same courtesy, right? And that's life. But we have had some very talented individuals that have worked with us and for us over the years. And everybody that has helped make this what it is has played a part in that. And I'm very, very appreciative for their efforts. And for those that are no longer with us, wish them the best. Of course, not at our expense. But, I just don't live with those grudges. I know some other people may, but I don't. I just don't live with those grudges. And I'm just very appreciative the time that people were with us, the contributions they made to our organization. And have no ill will in my heart towards any of those folks. And so I hope that you can say the same. I do. Because life is too short and death is too certain to live with bitter and resentment. There are things that happen sometimes that get me motivated and I get really aggravated. And I said, I'll show them. That's just life in general. I've always kind of been built that way. But it's so much easier when you can just say, you know what? Not everything is personal. Some things are professional. That's how you have to look at it. And so, again, very, very appreciative to everybody that has shared the path with us, whether you be a contributor, a writer, a poster, anybody that's been a part of this, man. I'm so incredibly grateful for you, for what you've done for us and for yourself. And I hope that you enjoyed your time with us. And, that's life, right? I mean, some people are just with you for a season, and that's just kind of how things go. But, again, I know harbor no ill will in my heart towards anybody. That's going to do it for today, man. I'll be back on Monday. You folks have a great weekend. I mean, great. And maybe a great weekend's just getting under the blanket and cranking up the fire and watching some college basketball all weekend. That'd be great. And get on your phone, check in with us over at genespage.com. We'll keep you abreast of what's going on with your visitors. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we'll make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.